if we could get maybe if Mr. Peltier can continue working on the video and trying to set that somehow. But you're correct that legally sufficient as long as there's able to be participation through hearing and just actually we can hear them and they can hear us. That should be legally sufficient. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Whitney. Okay, Danny, so we'll just proceed forward with audio only. And if the individual that is there in the north, if they can see what we're doing through your laptop, that works for me as well.
Okay, so that sounds good. I'll let you know I'm recording here. You're going to see my face pop up on your guys' screen in a moment. So I can connect via video with my laptop, but it's audio only for participants here. But we have one public comment, and we'll be able to do that as well. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you guys, and we can go ahead and start.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And maybe, Danny, can you take roll call?
Member Luna.
Here.
Member Macedon.
Here.
Member Moulton.
Here.
Member Hinton.
Present.
Member Kerner.
Here.
Member Corbett. Chair Guanasso.
Present. So it looks like we have, 6 of the 7 here. So we have quorum, and we can proceed forward. Member Luna, you want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. No. Rude. The notice that went out on this was a notice for a public hearing. Before we open up the next agenda item for public comment, I just wanted to flag for everyone that both Nevada Virtual and the Authority have been working very, very hard on a settlement agreement that would resolve all of the disputes and issues that would be adjudicated today, and as well as the dispute that's in district court. And so, in so much as that impacts your desire to give public comment, I throw that out there to let you know that we've got an agreement that we're looking to consider that could cause us to end earlier than we've anticipated if it's approved by the board. And so with that, why don't we go ahead and start taking public comment. But what we'll do is Danny, we'll go ahead and start in the north with the one public comment that's there.
Okay, Chair Guanasso. So we have Vinicha Solovich.
Okay, hi, my name is Vinicha Solovich. Vinicasulezzich. Did you take that? Okay, so my son was attending Nevada Virtual Academy, has a disability, he has autism, and I just want to tell you I hope you do close Nevada Virtual Academy down. Because for 2 years, all I got was bullying. Every IEP, I got bullied, I got attacked. They threatened to take his IEP away. They threatened to lower his grades. They threatened to shut down his curriculum. He is very smart. He has an IQ of 130, but he can't communicate. And he has really fine motor delays. So this is all about MAPS testing. And I got a psychological report from a psychologist who said because of his disability, it would be too traumatic for him to take the testing. And there's no law, as I researched, because I went all the way up, filed a governor's complaint, went up to Will Jensen, and went all the way up to Megan Henry for K-12. And all they did, they kept bullying and harassing me. And even Mr. Denson, he attacked me viciously in an IEP. So I mean, it's a good curriculum, but I'm very much, again, I hope you guys shut it down because they believe they're above the law, that they're untouchable. Yolanda Hamilton acts like she doesn't know anything when I emailed her the whole time what was going on, and she did nothing about it. She kept acting naive like she did not know anything. So I had to go all the way up, file a governor's complaint. I had an advocate in there who've been doing it for 30 years, and she said the only reason they're doing what they're doing is because they want to win. I mean, it's obvious with you guys. They're bullying you guys. They think they don't have to listen to you guys. They don't respect what you say. They don't respect what Will Jensen says. The governor said anything. So my son, I mean, as parents, I'm advocating for parents with disabilities because they're trying to get anybody out if they can't make their numbers. And my son works very hard, and there's no reason that they treated him that way. And I had to go through 2 years of this. And to this day, I got bullied by them. And it's supposed to be adult-to-adult bullying policy, which I could not find in there because I had to consult an attorney. And then they had to reverse because he broke the law, and they had to reverse to bring up his grades because it actually lowered his grades, even though he did the work. So, you guys are looking at all this, and you guys are not experiencing it as a parent, especially with a child with disability. They want anybody out with a disability who doesn't make their numbers. And to me, that is not right. I hope you really listen and shut this down because they've had years. I've been here since he was in kindergarten, and they haven't changed. And you tried, and they, like I said, they think they're above the law. And from what I can say, looks like they are, unless something gets done.
3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Quinn, also that is the only public comment we have up in the north.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call up Gabriel Rios.
Chair Guanasso, I don't know if a microphone is off down there. We don't hear anything up here.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Rios. Gabriel. Hello, my name is Gabriel Rios. I am going into 3rd grade. I love my school and my teachers. I have been a student at NVVA for 4 years. I love to learn new things. Please leave my school open so I can continue learning at NVVA. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm having a hard time reading this handwriting, so I'm going to say the last name is Authne, a mom and learning coach. A-U.
A-U-T-H-N.
Is that Authne? Miss Authne? Guthrie, sorry. I know. Thank you.
Graciela. Guthrie. Okay.
My name is Graciela Guthrie, as I've said. I've been a learning coach with NVBA since 2009, so that is 9 years of this. I have 4 daughters who have been in the program. My oldest, Karen, started in 4th and went up until 11th. Elizabeth went from 2nd to 7th, and Christabel, who is present here and will speak, has been in it since kinder, is going into 8th, and is hoping to continue on to high school. My Holly started in 2nd grade, just finished 2nd grade, and is going into 3rd. And I have Therese, who is in the process of enrolling and going into 1st. I also have an almost 2-year-old that I really hope that this will be a school choice for her. As a parent, I'm the type that researches everything to death. You probably are familiar with that. I have looked at all educational choices, including CCSD public schools, magnet schools, brick and mortar charter schools, and other online schools. And education, you know, is not one size fits all. So I always look at different options for each of my children because I know that each has different needs. And I even tried homeschooling on our own. But I always come back to NVBA. NVBA has consistently over these 9 years been the program that we've used for the vast majority. So the vast majority of our school experience has been with NVBA, because they consistently meet or exceed my children's needs. All of my children read above grade level, and I hear of stories of children who come to the school because they were bullied or because they have an IEP and they need this. In my children's experience, they were always held back in other programs, and NVBA always allowed them to move ahead, to go forward. So I have a lot of my children have been a few grades ahead in some of their subjects, and they can do that. They can tailor it, and I love that. And they've all tested really well in state tests, like above average. So, but that is not my greatest pleasure. My greatest pleasure is not just seeing the academics, but also seeing how they're being formed in their character as individuals. And I know that is not all just the K-12 curriculum, because there are other schools that offer the K-12 curriculum. But there is something about this school culture, NVBA, as a school, the teachers that they choose, that are caring and are amazing teachers, our board and our administration that consistently strive to make this the best school possible for our children. And of course, the parents, because most of the parents that I meet that are in NVBA are like me, that have evaluated other school choices, and this has come on top. And so this is our school of choice, and everybody brings that in, and it's an amazing school culture. And as a school culture, we have a community, and we care about each other very much and support each other and celebrate each other's accomplishments. And I really do hope that continues, that we are allowed to continue as a school community. So if you could please consider that, and please, my children have prepared brief statements too, and they will share that with you. There's probably a lot less than I've said today, but they do want to speak up, and I hope you will consider us. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chair Guinasso, I wanted to do a microphone check. Can you still hear us?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Thank you.
How are we coming through up there?
You guys sound clear as day.
Perfect. All right. Christabel Guthrie.
Hi, my name is Christabel Guthrie. I'm 12 years old. I've been in NVBA since kindergarten. It's always been fun and a better school option for me because I can move at my own pace. I'm a grade ahead in my language arts. NVBA also allows me to spend more time with my family, which is really important to me. The teachers are really kind and supportive. My English teacher would give me great feedback about the books that I am writing. She told me that I'm an amazing author and that I should keep up the good work.
and the students that I interact with at NVVA are very polite. I have quite a few friends. The kids in the Young Authors Club that I was in last year were super friendly to the books that I wrote. In fact, it was some kids in the NVVA that encouraged me to start my writing. Honestly, I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for NVVA. I think NVVA should be allowed to continue so that way it can help other people the way it helped me. I know that many of us are worried about NVVA closing down. After all, I'm not the only student that NVVA has helped. So please don't let it shut down. I'm really looking forward to the next school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Therese Guthrie. And then Holly as well. Holly Guthrie, if she wants to come up too.
Mm-hmm. My name is Therese Guthrie, and
You can spell it? G-H.
T-H-E-R-E-S-E. I want NVVA to stay open because I want to do it next year. I will be in first grade. I want to be in it like Holly, my sister. I like it because it's creative. I like the books they send. I like the lessons on the computer. It is a very good school. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly?
My name is Holly Guthrie, Holly. I've been in NVVA for 1 year and I love it. My second grade was awesome. I really enjoyed learning math, history, science, music, and of course language arts. I enjoyed the books that NVVA provides. They were pretty awesome. My favorite was Listen My Children. I love the poetry. I wish that NVVA will continue because it's a great school. It challenges me to learn. I find it interactive and fun, and I'm really looking forward to third grade at NVVA. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sylvia Polito.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sylvia Polito, Sylviapulido, and we currently live in North Las Vegas. I currently have a fifth grader and soon to be sixth grader and soon to be third grader at Nevada Virtual Academy. Our family's been working with Nevada Virtual Academy for almost 7 years now. My husband and I both value education very much. We feel that the K-12 curriculum that NVV offers has been a great fit for our family. Both of my sons have tested above the average on both math and reading set by the Clark County School District standards. They are both currently working 1 year ahead of their school grade in math as well. They are also likely to complete the rest of their curriculum sooner than the end of the school year. Actually, my soon-to-be sixth grader is finishing up his actual sixth grade math over the summer. So that's been a little bit of fun. My point is that both of our sons have done very well and excelled in their studies at NVVA. We've always had the support of the school, and we've always had the support of also the parents, which we enjoy. They love their school and have had amazing teachers throughout the years who've always been there to support us. This has been because NVVA is learning opportunities they offer to the families and the students. We're here to ask you to continue allowing Nevada Virtual Academy the opportunity to teach our children and future children in our community to have that option. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Blotnick.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Blotnick, Blatnik. I'm a local attorney. I practice law in 12 different jurisdictions as a solo practitioner. I'm also a licensed broker, realtor. My daughter and I are active participants in a dance troupe, and I also participate in a symphony orchestra. Nevada Virtual Academy allowed us to participate in all of these activities, travel to go to, I was in the 166th International Conference of Law and Political Science in Rome in May. Nevada Virtual Academy allowed my daughter to come with me, to travel with me to Rome, to participate in the conference, watch, hear, and listen to her mother present a paper on taxation, which she actually acted somewhat interested in the taxation that I was discussing. She will be graduating early with an associate's degree through the Jump Start program. My older daughter, we were living in Florida at the time, also graduated early through Florida Virtual Academy. My request is that the parties continue to engage in settlement discussions and reach an agreement to allow this program to remain open for those of us who have differently abled children or lives that include travel. I would not want my daughter not to travel with me. The experiences she learns from coming with me to we just returned from a National Association for Criminal Defense Lawyers conference. She came with me. She met other lawyers. She learns from being with me. And the ability to have a virtual school where she has guidance, a curriculum, testing, and she tests very well, but also to travel with her mother and to participate and enjoy life fully and dance and music and have experiences that you don't learn in a classroom where you must be at all times. I also have a congenital heart imperfection which impacts my life to where I do not function as most people normally do, but I live a fulfilling life. And I greatly appreciate the flexibility of curriculum as well as travel that I'm able to have with my daughter so that I'm able to spend the years that I am given with her in a meaningful way. I request the parties to keep this school open so that other parents and other families may benefit from the flexibility and the ability to tailor your education to that of your child's needs as well as your family's needs.
Thank you. Kara Galvez.
Good morning. My name is Kara Galvez. I've been in Las Vegas for about 2 years, and I'm from New York State, upstate New York. I am well known up there, well pillar of the community, if you could say. We teach something up there called Incredible Years, where our biggest problem is when parents lose children to CPS or anything like that, parents don't even want their kids back. And you have parents here that want this school open because they actually want to help their kids. And I can tell you right now that when we sold our house and our businesses and left New York State, they told me, and I have the paperwork and the proof to back up everything that I say so you know it's true. My son was disabled. He would never be able to read, write, or do any type of testing without a computer aid, teacher's aid, everything else. When we left and came here, we tried the brick and mortar schools. We did that. They were failing. They chose to decide to let my son move on to 3rd grade, even though they knew he wouldn't pass it. And on top of that, there was a stabbing at the school in Henderson that my daughter went to, and she did not feel safe at school anymore. So our only option left for us, because we don't know the area, we don't know what schools are good, what schools are bad, is Nevada Virtual Academy. Now, in the 1 year that they have done it, my son's math testing is at a 3rd grade level. He has completed speech. I have 7 years worth of IEPs, and everything that first lady you spoke to is incorrect, because NVVA was the only school that helped put my son in speech program where he could get one-on-one attention, not in a group setting, and actually get help, and he learned how to read and write on his own. Now, the New York State school system couldn't even tell me until second grade that my son was born almost blind. Okay, now these kids are going through with problems that they are missing in the massive school system, and they can't get the individual attention. They slip through the cracks, and if I would have stayed there, my son would have been exactly what they said he was, disabled. And where would he be now? I don't know. The NVVA gave it to him, and I told them I don't want to give my feedback yet because I'm interested in summer regression, and if you want statistics or anything else like that, I can provide it, I can prove it, and say that it works. And I don't want it to close yet because my kids are actually looking forward to doing it next year, and they've had a really hard life, and they don't need any more disappointment. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Bree Anchong.
Hello, my name is Bree Achong, Breeachong. I have been a Nevada virtual student since 5th grade, and because of the curriculum I had in regular school, I could not comprehend with what they were doing because my brain works at a faster pace with my ADHD. I would be sitting there just playing around with my hands, bored out of my mind because I was finished with all my work and I couldn't do anything else. With NVVA, I was able to go through my summer of 5th grade. I was doing 6th grade work to the point I actually got promoted two years ahead of what I was. I am 15 now, going into the Jumpstart program. I am the youngest person. Nevada Virtual Academy is not brick and mortar school. It is made for people that can't sit down. It's made for people that have troubles going through brick and mortar. Like me, I could not sit still. I couldn't do anything like that. And I have a lot of struggles with anxiety, and I was always being bullied, and people would turn around on me and saying I was the bully. So on top of getting bullied by my peers, I was also getting bullied by my teachers because of my race. And with Nevada Virtual Academy, I've only had about one bad teacher that I dealt with, and through the whole year, it was perfectly fine. Please do not close down my school. This is the only option for me that actually would work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Christine Klein.
Hi, my name is Christine Klein, Klein. I'm here to request that you do not close down Nevada Virtual Academy. My daughter is going into her senior year this August, and I've seen tremendous growth in her. She went from being a C, D, and F student to an A, B, and C student now. One of the problems that we had is that where we're zoned for a high school that is in a bad area, and there's a lot of bad things going on in that high school, and so consequently my daughter got tied up in the wrong crowd, which brought down her grades, which brought down her desire and morale to excel and succeed. And so now that she's home, she is more focused. She is doing the work that she's supposed to do. She is very concentrated on doing the tasks that's set before her. And so Nevada Virtual is a really good fit for her. So therefore, I'm asking you to not close down Nevada Virtual Academy. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that'll conclude the public comment I have here before me. Danny, just want to double check. Did anybody come in late up there that wants to give public comment?
No, there's no one up here.
Okay, thank you. All right, that'll close agenda item number 2, public comment. We'll now move into agenda item number. Oh. Let me see. Here. If there's any other public comment, would please raise your hand. Sebastian Rios, please come on up.
Hello, my name is Sebastian Rios, Sebastian. I've been with Nevada Virtual Academy for 6 years. Nevada Virtual Academy has allowed me to learn at my own pace. Currently, I am finishing up 6th grade mathematics and will be starting 7th grade mathematics next school year. I have a life-threatening peanut allergy, and Nevada Virtual Academy has helped me feel safe. I don't have to worry on a daily basis that I will be exposed to peanuts. I can focus on my learning instead of worrying. Family time is very important to me and my family. The flexibility that Nevada Virtual Academy allows me and my family to spend time with each other. It also gives me the time to write plays, which is something I enjoy doing. I love my school, Nevada Virtual Academy, and I hope you will consider keeping my school open. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will now close. I'm hearing no other public comment. That'll close. Or will it? All right, no, we've got another. Okay, here we go. All right.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Terrio. I am the daughter of Kelly Blatnick, the one who likes to travel a lot. In addition to the traveling and the flexibility that it offers, I want to say that NVA is a good opportunity for schools because of the flexibility that it allows. Because in the 8th grade, I've been with NVA since the 8th grade, and in the 8th grade, I tried to go into the middle school near where we were located in Zone 4, but they wouldn't allow me to because I had too much high school credit because I had taken French 1 over the summer in addition to a couple of other high school courses. And so we tried to go to the local high school, and although they tried to get me in, eventually due to my age, it wasn't necessarily socially acceptable or safe for me to continue in that school. So I wasn't able to go to the local brick and mortar schools. And NVA allows me to continue my education as I'm in the Jumpstart program, which I'll be graduating next year with my associate's degree, which is a wonderful opportunity. And so by going through NVA, it's enabled me to pursue my academics without having to worry about the social construct of being with a bunch of kids that are way too older for me to interact with, which I really like and appreciate. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you continuing the school to continue to stay open.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, before I prematurely close public comment, let me. Is there anybody else that we missed? All right, very good. Well, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Move on to the next agenda item, which is the actual public hearing regarding potential closure proceedings. Before we get into the public hearing, we actually were provided about 30 minutes prior to the meeting. When I say we, that is the board, and I believe this is now on the website, a draft proposed stipulated settlement agreement. And before I turn this over to Ryan to explain where we've come from, where we're at, where we intend to go, I just wanted to provide a little context to say that to Nevada Virtual's credit, my fellow board members should know that the representatives of Nevada Virtual actually reached out to me and asked for a meeting, and we met up in my office a few weeks ago with NVA's lawyer, with several representatives of NBA, and most importantly, the board president. And what impressed me most about the meeting was that the board president, about 30 minutes into the meeting after introductions and brief overview, the board president asked if we could stop the meeting and excuse ourselves so that the two of us could have a private conversation. And the fact that she took leadership in that regard and then spoke to me candidly by saying, well, it's clear that the turnaround plan that was presented wasn't acceptable. I want to know what it is we can do to address the issues that the board raised. And I started with when in the conversation, I started by recognizing that, and I think most of us board members recognize that Nevada Virtual and virtual education does, in fact, work for some students. Our concern was primarily that with regard to the standards that we hold virtual schools and all other schools in our portfolio too, that it didn't appear that Nevada Virtual is able to meet those standards for all of its students. And we have an obligation to kind of oversee the schools and make sure that all the students are being served well, not just a few students and families. And so with that, the feedback that I provided her was that she needed to reach out to staff, and her staff needed to come up with some rigorous benchmarks that included non-discretionary consequences and accountability, and that there be enrollment caps to help focus the resources, because unlike brick and mortar schools, virtual schools can take all comers, and that's a strength and a weakness, as we discussed. And so we thought that enrollment caps would allow for some stabilization, and that whatever we came up with, that it would somehow tie in to the inevitable renewal decision that we have to make next year, and that the plan with its benchmarks and with the criteria inside of it, that it also it gives some indication that we're going to provide quality education for all the kids across the board and show what that looks like. And so their staff worked very hard to engage with Mr. Moderson and Mr. Herrick, and with that, I'd like to just kind of turn it over to them. And Mr. Herrick, would you like to kind of pick up where I've left off there?
Sure. If you could, if you can give me just a moment, Ms. Hendricks and Ms. Morris and I'll kind of set up here the hearing, but to just take a moment.
Okay. So while they're setting up, I know we just got this 30 minutes before the meeting. I know some of you have had a chance to read. Has everybody had a chance to read the proposed agreement? All right. Does anybody need additional time? Because we could take a 10-minute recess if you did, but if not, then we'll just proceed forward. Okay, looks like everybody has had an opportunity to read what's been provided. So, Mr. Heck, what I left off was the conversation that I was able to have with the board president a few weeks back. Since then, you and staff have had an opportunity to work with the representatives of NVVA. You want to kind of fill the board in on what's happened over the course of the last couple of weeks?
Sure. Good morning. Can you hear me? Is that picking up? Is that picking up? Ryan Herrick, General Counsel for the record. What I'd like to run through a bit here is kind of how we got here, what potentially may happen today, and then focus on the proposed agreement that's in front of you. So as the board is aware, following the release of the Department of Education Nevada School Performance Framework results in, for the last school year, for the 2016-2017 school year, in December 2017, the academic performance ratings were released. Following that, this board issued the notice of intent to terminate Nevada Virtual's charter school contract on February 21st, primarily as a result of the elementary school performance. And to put it into context, Nevada Virtual Academy's elementary school received a raw index score of 19 out of 100. And once that was adjusted, it's 21 out of 100 possible points. Following the issuance of the notice of intent, the school submitted their academic turnaround plan, and as the board knows, this board rejected that plan at its May 14th meeting, which that brings us to today, the public hearing in regard to terminating Nevada Virtual's charter school contract or potentially eliminating grade levels. The notice as it relates to today includes the hearing, the evidentiary portion of the hearing, which would include hearing of argument from counsel, hearing from witnesses, and reviewing documentary evidence. The notice also includes language regarding any resolution, settlement, or informal disposition. And that's what I'd like to discuss with you prior to getting to the evidentiary hearing. SBCSA staff, along with representatives of the school, have worked very hard jointly since the rejection of the school's academic turnaround plan to come up with some sort of proposal that would satisfy both staff and the board, as well as the school going forward. I'll walk through kind of the framework of what's in front of you, and then we can delve into the terms a little bit more. Director Moderson and Executive Director Gavin can then fill in some of the details regarding why we are recommending this settlement. Ms. Hendricks, counsel for Nevada Virtual, as well as Ms. Morris, their board chair, are also here and would like to speak in regard to the settlement. In the event this board approves the settlement will be done, and the evidentiary portion of this hearing will be vacated. In the event the board rejects the proposed settlement, we would then move forward today in regard with the evidentiary portion of the hearing, and this board would make a determination regarding whether to terminate Nevada Virtual charter school contract or eliminate grade levels. With that said, let me give you a brief overview of what we've tried to do. There's 3 pending issues related to Nevada Virtual's poor academic performance. The first is the termination proceedings, which is why we're here today. The second is the pending litigation that Nevada Virtual has filed against the authority. As you're aware, the litigation filed against the authority, Nevada Virtual sought a restraining order and other relief to stop these proceedings. After a hearing, the judge denied that request. However, the underlying litigation is still pending in court. The third issue is renewal. As you're also aware, Nevada Virtual, this upcoming school year, the 2018-2019 school year, will be the last year under its existing charter contract. As a result, Nevada Virtual will be potentially applying for renewal of its entire charter contract this fall. Given these 3 pending issues, the school and staff sought to find a resolution that would resolve all 3 of these issues. What the settlement does in front of you is, in regard to termination proceedings, as I said today, if the settlement was approved by this board, the remaining portion of the hearing would be vacated. The litigation would be dismissed as well. And that brings us to renewal, which is the bulk of the proposal in front of you. What I'd like to do is provide you with a brief framework and summary of how this would work, and then I can delve into the details to the extent that you need. Again, Nevada Virtual is in its last year of its existing charter contract. What the proposal would do for the last year, this upcoming school year, the 2018-2019 school year, is it would implement enrollment caps across all grade levels K through 12. And you can see that on pages 5 and 6 of the agreement. The proposal as it relates to enrollment would not unenroll any current students at Nevada Virtual. What it would do is put caps in place for this coming school year and going forward under any potential renewed charter contract. Going forward, what staff and the school have agreed upon and what staff is recommending is, in regard to any renewed contract, Nevada Virtual under this agreement would not apply for renewal of their elementary school portion, the kindergarten through 5th, unless they achieve a 34 index score this fall. And when I say this fall, this coming September, when the Nevada School Performance Framework rankings are released for this last school year, the 2017-2018 school year, if Nevada Virtual has not achieved a 34 index score, any renewal application from Nevada Virtual would not include their elementary school. In the event that they do reach a 34 index score for this last school year, they would apply for renewal, and staff would recommend, SPCSA staff would recommend renewal of the elementary school portion of Nevada Virtual under the terms and conditions outlined in the agreement. Most importantly, the agreement and any renewed charter contract would contain the following benchmarks. For the first year under the new contract, after Nevada Virtual achieves a 34 this upcoming year, there would be an 8-point increase in each successive year. So in other words, Nevada Virtual under year one in their renewed contract would need to achieve a 42 index score. In the event a 42 point index score was not achieved, the following school year, Nevada Virtual would eliminate their kindergarten. In any successive year after that, if Nevada Virtual did not achieve the next benchmark, the next 8-point increase, moving up to 50, which would make it a 3-star school, they would then eliminate their first grade, and so on and so forth throughout the term of the contract. So in other words, there is a threshold that Nevada Virtual would have to meet this coming fall for this last school year to even apply for renewal of their elementary school. Once they meet that threshold, each year going forward under their any renewed contract would contain those benchmarks. If Nevada Virtual does not meet those benchmarks, a grade level would be eliminated. In the event Nevada Virtual does achieve those benchmarks, there's a provision in the agreement where they can apply for a 10% increase in the enrollment caps for the next year. And as context for where those numbers came from, the 34, 42, and 50, once we begun having settlement discussions or resolution discussions, Nevada Virtual provided us with information on where they thought they would be in the next few years, given the academic turnaround plan that they've instituted for the last school year and going forward. Those were Nevada Virtual's benchmarks. Staff reviewed those benchmarks, and we thought they were fair, and we thought that they were stringent. In addition to those benchmarks and the enrollment caps, the agreement provides that Nevada Virtual would still be bound by all other statutes, regulations, contractual provisions, framework provisions as it relates to charter school accountability. So while these benchmarks and enrollment caps would be part of any renewed contract as well as the settlement agreement, the school would still be bound by all other accountability measures. The agreement, the proposed agreement, also contains reporting and monitoring requirements in Section 4, 5 different notification provisions in Section 6. So if this board was to approve this resolution, Nevada Virtual would be required to post on their website that they're operating under a stipulated agreement. Their enrollment forms would have to include that language as well. And then several times a year, as different triggers are met, they would also have to notify parents and guardians of where they're at in terms of performance under the state framework, as well as what that means under this agreement. We also tried to take into account any changes to the Nevada School Performance Framework over the year. So there's language included in Section 9 where, because this agreement would be in place for the next 6 years, if changes were made, that's taken into account. We worked very hard on this agreement, and I'll let Director Moderson and Executive Director Gavin speak more to it. Last week at Nevada Virtual's board meeting, the Nevada Virtual Board approved this framework to move forward. I attended that board meeting. Ms. Hendricks and I spoke in regard to this agreement. Nevada Virtual has now approved it, and after Director Moderson and Executive Director Gavin, as well as the school, speaks to it, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the agreement, how it works, and the details.
Thank you, Mr. Herrick. Mr. Merson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Gwinnell, members of the board. I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Herrick's comments, just to kind of outline, I think, a few important takeaways of the settlement agreement. Particularly, I want to focus on why staff feels that this agreement is good for kids. So first is that staff believes that it limits, or knows that it will limit the number of students that the school can enroll beginning next year, which, as Mr. Herrick noted, are on pages 5 and 6 of this settlement. So beginning in the 18-19 school year, the school can enroll no more than 475 students at the elementary school level. Staff felt that this was critical because we cannot and should not be expanding school choice unless we know that we have quality school choice. There is no choice without quality. I think that this board has reiterated that time and again. So by limiting the number of students that Nevada Virtual serves, we can contain the number of one-star seats available in the portfolio and also help the school focus on serving a smaller number of students well. Second, there's a performance trigger right out of the gate for the 17-18 school year of 34, which is outlined on page 3 of the settlement. And this is something that Mr. Herrick also noted. And staff felt that this was an important hurdle for the school to clear and was an important condition of the settlement. As you'll recall, the school had an index score of 21.11 for the 16-17 school year, and staff felt that the school must show significant gains to remain open beyond the 18-19 school year. A 34 would be an increase of over 50%. While it's not a high rating, it would represent a significant increase in the quality of seats available to Nevada students through the school. Third, the performance benchmarks beyond the 18-19 school year, which are outlined on page 4 of the memo, would show that they are continuing to be focused on creating more high quality seats at the school. One of the goals, as you all know, of the strategic plan is to maintain an unwavering commitment to high quality schools, 4- and 5-star schools, and we believe the benchmarks set forth in this plan aim to get this school to a 3-star level by the 2020-2021 school year and are closely aligned to the original proposal, as Mr. Herrick noted, put forth by the school. So for the 18-19 school year, the school would have a benchmark to hit an index score of 42, and for the 19-20 school year, the school would have an index score of 50, which would allow them to attain a 3-star rating. And again, for the 2021 school year and beyond, the school would need to maintain an index score of 50 or greater. And fourth, we feel like this is a good settlement agreement for kids because if the school fails on its promise, there are consequences for doing so, which are outlined on pages 4 and 5. So, for example, if the school fails to hit an index score of 34 or higher, the board of Nevada Virtual will not put forth a renewal application for the entire elementary school. So, in other words, if they do not hit a 34, the elementary school will cease to exist beyond next school year. Second, if they fail to hit the index score of 42 after the 18-19 school year, they will freeze enrollment and begin eliminating grade levels in subsequent years. So by way of example, if they fail to hit a 42 in 18-19, this will be confirmed by the performance ratings released in the fall of 2019, and under the agreement, Nevada Virtual will eliminate its kindergarten beginning the following school year, which is 2020-2021. I think that gap of time, which is roughly 9 months, is appropriate and allows both the school and prospective families to plan accordingly for approximately 9 months, and the school will freeze enrollment and not enroll any additional students. And finally, as you heard Mr. Herrick say, the settlement also requires the school to notify all parents via USPS mail and electronic mail if they face closure at the end of the 18-19 school year. Countless hours put forth by both authority staff, Nevada Virtual staff, and their board, and the terms outlined were jointly agreed upon. And I can say after visiting the school about a week and a half ago, I think that both the staff and the board of Nevada Virtual understand the seriousness in terms of the settlement, their work ahead, and the need to improve the results for their school.
Thank you, Director Moterson. Patrick Gavin for the record. So just a couple of comments here. Mark and Ryan, I think, have done an excellent job of focusing on the immediate issue in front of us with relation to the performance of the elementary school, the proposed remedy, and then the penalties. I wanted to focus on a couple more broad themes that I think emerged from this agreement as a result of particularly the leadership of Chair Morris. And those in particular are the fact that should the school eliminate either the elementary school as a whole or in the future have to eliminate grade levels, there is a specific commitment on the part of the school that it will facilitate the process of having families find new appropriate seats for their children. I think that The reality is that there aren't enough high-quality seats across this valley or across this state, and it can be very challenging for families to navigate that process, especially if the school for which they are zoned, for whatever reason, they don't perceive as meeting their needs. So I think that's a really critical piece of this. I would also say that the decision that the school made to work with us in capping the enrollment of the middle and high school is also really important. Having done this work for 20 years and having been in contexts where perhaps an elementary school was performing relatively well, but the middle school was not, and having seen what happens when a school voluntarily offers to lop off grades, but then has other financial obligations and blows up the rest of the school to meet those costs, almost invariably you see a dramatic decline in performance because the structural issues that it's just really hard to absorb a lot of new kids. So the fact that the school has not only agreed to the caps at the middle and high school levels, but also critically this 25-75 ratio to ensure that the school is not in a position where it is having to acculturate many new students over the course of the year, I think is really important because it aligns the incentives for the school, but because the longer they can keep kids and keep them engaged, the more children are going to be in those grades. And it also provides some information to families about potential negative consequences of deciding not to engage in school, including but not limited to your limited ability to potentially return. And that I think is important so that the school and its families can move forward in partnership to make sure and with the best interests of their kids at top of mind. So I really want to thank Ms. Morris in particular for this. Because I think I think it takes a lot of leadership and humility to look at what is working well and recognizing it should still be far better, but also to do what they have done and recognize that when things aren't working, something has to change.
Thank you. Kara?
Thank you. For the record, Kara Hendricks. I am counsel for Nevada Virtual Academy. I have to tell you, the last month has been very challenging, and the school has worked very hard in working with the staff and getting the agreement that's in front of you. It hasn't been easy, and the board has had to make some very hard choices. And I want you to be aware of that and aware of the commitment the Nevada Virtual Academy board, as well as their administrative team has to making sure the school works for everybody. We've heard from a lot of great parents and kids today, and I was very impressed by the students of Nevada Virtual Academy, especially that were brave enough to come forward and talk to you today about how important the school is to them. The school has a unique role and something different to offer, and really has something when brick and mortar schools fail students, they have a place to come where they can succeed and where they can get the help that they need. And the board is making sure that each kid and each child enrolled can succeed. And as you look through this agreement, which again is probably one of the harder agreements I've been a part of drafting and working on because it is very challenging. And when the school first submitted a proposal to authority staff after we had our meeting with Chair Guanasso, we talked about, yes, we think we can hit this 34 benchmark this next year. But when staff came back and said, okay, well, if you don't hit it, you don't get to apply for next year, that took our breath away, and that hurt, and that's something that's not easy for a school that has been open as long as Nevada Virtual to do. But I think that shows the commitment that this board has to making sure the school succeeds. And although we did not have a full year to implement the plan that we presented to you, the school has not had a full year to do that, and they have plans for next year. We realize the importance of making sure that every student is succeeding and providing additional help to the students that are struggling. And that's really what this plan is all about. I think it's in everybody's best interest to avoid protracted litigation. Of course, I make money that way, and that's nice for me, but that's not what's going to be beneficial to the school and to the students. And this agreement really does wrap up multiple issues and gives everybody a fresh start. And what I think to me, one of the biggest benefits that's come about as we've gone through this process is that we're already starting to improve the relationship, I think, between the school and the authority. And I think that's something that's critical. I think that's something that's critical for all schools, is to be able to feel like they can have open communications in a way to talk openly about concerns and finding out ways to address those concerns. So with that, if there are specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. It was great that Mr. Herrick participated in Nevada virtual board meeting, which was on Thursday night. He was able to provide some additional insight to the board members and answer questions that they had about this proposal when it was presented to them. And as Mr. Herrick already indicated, Nevada Virtual Academy's board has approved these points that are in front of you now, and we hope you do as well. And with that, I want to turn the time over to Samantha Morris, who is Nevada Virtual Academy's board president.
Thank you, Ms. Morris.
Thank you, Samantha Morris, for the record. First, I just want to thank Chairman Guinasso for taking the time to communicate with me. It was extremely helpful, and we wanted to make sure as a board that you understood how committed we were to ensuring that Nevada Virtual does the very best for its students. And also to thank Director Gavin and his staff. They have been extremely helpful, and I think we have opened a new line of communication that hopefully going forward will continue to benefit all of us. I think through the process, the board has gained a better understanding of what you as an authority were looking for, and we hope to be able to implement a lot of the needed changes going forward to be able to be held accountable for what we do and what we do for our students, and to be able to give that assurance to you that we're doing the best that we can. We wanted to make sure that you guys knew how serious the board was about its commitment to the school and to the students that the school serves. And so when we created this agreement, like it has been said numerous times by Kara and others, a lot of time went into this, a lot of weekends, a lot of nights. It's been a long road. But it was a little painful. We have taken some losses. But we are very much committed, and we wanted you to know that that is a very sincere commitment on our part, and we are ready to take this opportunity, if it's agreed upon, to move forward and to make the needed changes and ensure that Nevada Virtual Academy is the very best it can be in the state of Nevada. And we very much appreciate all the effort that has gone into getting to where we're at today. Thank you.
Chair,
thank you.
Guinasso, two points, and then I'd certainly open it up to questions for staff or the school. Just to be clear on the timing, the state rankings should come out, tentative ones in August, and then final ratings in September. The renewal window for the authority, as you know, is October. So within the next 6 to 12 weeks, we're going to know a lot if this agreement is approved. In terms of, I want everybody to be clear that there's going to be, in the next several months, next several board meetings, there'll be some information that we'll be able to provide on what is going to happen under this agreement. The second point, and again, before we open it up for questions, is I want to be clear on what we're asking for. Staff is asking, based on its recommendation for approval of this agreement. Ms. Hendricks and I were negotiating points last night, and as early as 5 this morning still. There is a bit of cleanup in the language to the actual document. So if this agreement was approved, we'd probably need a few days to clean up some language. I don't think we're negotiating any other points at this point in time, but simply clean up the document prior to formal signature.
Thank you, Mr. Herrick. Thank you all for your hard work. It's been, I know it's been hard. I've received phone calls and answered the questions and tried to be a facilitator of open communication as you work through the various issues. I'd like to thank our staff as well, Mark, Director Gavin, and Ryan. You've all just worked extremely hard to produce something that it appears to have some quality to it, in terms of what I think we're looking for as a board. Moderson also had an opportunity, as you mentioned before, to visit the school and to engage with leadership as well as with the board. And I think the provisions that you have put into this agreement are thoughtful. A couple of questions I had just out of the gate was just, with regard to where Nevada Virtual's at now and where we expect them to be in the fall, my understanding is they have a 21 now, a 21 out of 100. And so we're expecting that they would jump 13 points, and that was based on Nevada Virtual's initial proposal. Let me ask you this: do you feel like you're being set up for success, or you're being set up for failure? I know there's risk in all this, but that's a big jump in 1 year.
It's a huge jump in 1 year, and if you want to lower that number, we would be okay with that. I think, that's where we're taking a leap of faith here. Even after we agreed to this number, just this week, we found out that the Department of Education is changing the way they're calculating absenteeism yet again. And so we were pretty comfortable. I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but we were okay with that number based on the old way that they were calculating it. Now we have concerns that their way that they have calculated it may affect our number. And there's a big question as to what our testing scores are going to be when they're released in the fall. So it is a risk. But I guess to answer your question, I think ultimately, and if Ms. Morris feels differently, I'll let her opine as well. If we can hit these targets, I think the school is absolutely set up for success. And it puts the school on track to be a 3-star school in 3 years. And I want to celebrate that, because that would be a major accomplishment. And I think it would be a total credit, and it will be a credit to the board of NVA as well as the administrative team that have worked countless hours to really target and improve the school. And I'm confident it will work. If you look at it, it's referenced briefly in this agreement. This isn't the first time we've been before the authority. Last time we were focusing on the high school and the graduation rate, and we were able to turn that around and make substantial progress there. And I think you'll see that same progress at the elementary school level. And this agreement provides you, hopefully with some comfort, that it's not going in the direction that you want. There's some repercussions for that, and we'll allow the school to focus on those as well.
Mr. Moderson, I know the 34 number was an important number to start with. Could you just provide some context for the rest of the board about that number, why it was so important, and what you anticipate would be the road for NVVA to get there?
Yes, Chairman, also thank you. And I'd ask the Director Gavin if has anything to offer after I speak to please do so. But I think that the 34 was an important target, number one, because the school put forth that they would achieve a 33.9, so we feel like it's within their ability to do so. I think second, as Ms. Hendricks noted, the school has been working hard in a number of areas, one of which is chronic absenteeism. You'll recall that part of the presentation in late April and early May, when the board rejected the improvement plan, talked a little bit about the level of chronic absenteeism the school was tracking at for this year. I cannot recall, I believe the number for the school in terms of students that were chronically absent in the 16-17 school year was around 23%, and now they are tracking at about I believe 6.5% to 7%, which is a tremendous improvement. And we are confident, while we can't confirm because we do not generate those ratings, we're confident as a staff that would represent a significant uptick in the index score and would generate quite a few points immediately out of the gate. And that, coupled with what the school believes is a strong plan for the 17-18 school year, will hopefully put them over the 34 score, if that helps.
Is there any concern about the changing standards regarding how absenteeism is tracked, and that was just mentioned by Ms. Hendrick?
Patrick Gavin, for the record, Mr. Chairman. No. And I think there are two reasons for that. One, if anything, it appears that this new calculation that is a result of outreach from the districts to the Department of Ed is, if anything, more generous. And should result in schools receiving more points. But the reality is the department can and does change these things based on a whole variety of factors, and we just simply can't predict or control those determinations. So I think all we can do is just work with the tools we have, just like every other public school and every other school system in the state. It is a reality of where we are. Whether these changes happen in regulation or in policy or in business rules, they get rolled out equally to everybody.
Thank you. Is there any accommodation for if the department doesn't issue rankings like they've done from time to time in the past? I know you had the provision about changing of how points are counted and how you achieve points, but what if there's just no ranking, like in year 2 or 3?
The way we've tried to address that, Chair Guanasso, Ryan Herrick, is that we've attempted, it's non-consecutive. So in the event that ratings are not issued, and I'll be a little careful saying this, we are fairly confident for the next several years that the department will issue ratings. We've tried to bake into the agreement something in regard to future changes, but the reality is once you get into years, and any accountability measures won't take effect until the following school year. Once you get into year 4, 5, and 6 of this agreement, depending on what the legislature does with virtual schools, depending on what the state is doing, I don't want to say we're going to have to revisit the agreement, but there's only so far that we can predict out in terms of a 6-year contract that won't start for another year. So we've tried to take those issues into account as best we could.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to the board, I wanted to recognize that we have a new board member, Mr. Randy Kerner. I'd like everybody to welcome him. Mr. Kerner, before we proceed, I just wanted to find out if you had an opportunity to review the materials in the prior proceeding and if you felt comfortable participating in a discussion that would ultimately lead to a vote on this issue that's now before us.
Thank you, Chair. Randy Kerner for the record. I was provided information on the situation we have here, and I've gone through and read them, so I feel pretty confident that I'm prepared.
Thank you. Well, welcome. All right. I'll go ahead and open it up to questions from other board members. Do any other board members have any questions about the draft agreement that's before us? Member Luna?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for the board chair, Ms. Morrison. How will you hold your school leaders accountable for reaching these benchmarks? And then the other one is, I guess, do you have a commitment to the index scores regardless how they're calculated? We just, had that small discussion. I mean, obviously things change. You're not going to come back and say, well, we were under the assumption they were going to be calculated this way.
We do hold our school leaders accountable for the outcomes. Going forward, we already receive monthly reports from our head of school every month during our school board meetings. Continuing, she will give us updates on more specific areas, and also we will receive quarterly reports on different testing, and of course when MAP test scores are coming out. As a board, we will sit down and really outline more specifically some of the things that we need to ensure are coming to us on a regular basis, and we will be doing that going forward. And to the second part of your question, index scores, we're always committed to making sure that our students are growing and that they're receiving the best possible education. So their growth is always very important, and ensuring that that is always happening is important to us, and we hope to continue to see that in our index scores. The academic measure of that is something that I think is where we sometimes disagree on how it's decided, just due to the way that our students come in and where they're at, and sometimes that those tests do not completely reflect what their abilities are. It doesn't always show where they started. So I think there's a little bit of challenge with that one, but I'm very committed to ensuring that our students grow.
Okay, but what I mean is in terms of, for this agreement, you're agreeing that for the index score of 50, regardless of how it's calculated today versus in a year or two, if the index score officially is 50, then that's what...
Yes, the way it is written in our agreement is what we're committed to doing. We are committed to what we've agreed to.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Member Hinton?
Member Hinton, for the record, I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, to all of the parents and students who testified today. I'm a 17-year career teacher currently in the Clark County School District. And as a current school teacher, I can tell you that it's very important to get the perspectives of our students and parents. But also from this perspective, I just want to acknowledge that you guys have a heavy lift. Obviously, I think we all understand the situation. Moving from a 1 to a 3-star rating in a very short period of time, that's going to create a lot of anxiety and consternation, perhaps. And I'm looking at this from the perspective of the teacher. We talked a lot about parents. We talked a lot about students. We talked about admin, but we haven't talked about teachers. Those elementary school teachers are going to feel an incredible burden, as well as their students. So I'm curious to know how you're going to, I guess, make sure that unnecessary burden fall onto the shoulders of those elementary school teachers, as well as the unfortunate situation of unintended consequences. I think trying to raise the performance of the school is an admirable goal, but unfortunately, unintended consequences happen. And I would like to know, is the school going to try to make sure that those unintended consequences are mitigated? So, for example, I know that in high stakes testing situations, and this is certainly a high stakes situation, that students aren't going to be purged from your school, and that unnecessary pressure isn't going to fall into those teachers.
Kara Hendricks for the record. I'd like to invite Dr. Denson, who is our elementary principal, to come up, if that would be okay, because I think it would be helpful perhaps for the board to understand what he has already put in place for the teachers, and he has the interaction with the students as well. And I think that's a very valid concern. And I believe the school has worked very hard to make sure the administrative team, the teachers, and the students are all working together, so it's not an undue hardship on any of those. So I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Dr. Denson so he can answer the specifics about what the school is doing in that regard.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Andre Denson, NVA KA principal for the record. Thank you for that question. We truly appreciate that because we all know where the rubber meets the road is in the classroom. And teachers are the individuals that make it happen each and every day. There's a couple of things that we've done this year, understanding where we were and where we want to go in the future years, is one, we have what we call cohort leads. And those are teacher representatives at each grade level that shares with me specifically issues, concerns, suggestions, recommendations as we move forward. So we want to make sure we hear the voices of our teachers. I am thoroughly impressed with the teaching staff. They know exactly where we are as a school and where we need to go as a school. And so they've been very instrumental in making sure that we put things in place to benefit our students and to help our students and to make sure we have what's necessary. So they are in line with us. To their credit, as we went through this process, I thought we would lose a good a good number of teachers, but they're committed to the long run and they want to make it happen. When we told them that we were visiting with Charter Authority staff about a week and a half ago, I think 10 to 12 of them wanted to come and visit and share their desires with the director and executive director. He came out. We limited that to only 4, and they were excited to be there and share with him what they do each and every day. And so that commitment with our teachers is there. My job is to make sure they don't feel the impact of administrative work and the day-to-day grind, if you will, that they can focus only on students. And I think that's one of the things that we've done well this year, and we'll have to do moving forward, where we move all the obstacles out of the way for them so they can concentrate mainly on teaching. And that's going to be our commitment for next year and years to come as well.
Dr. Jensen, do you also want to just follow up quickly on what we're doing for the students as well so they don't feel the pressure? And I know the school has never been in a position that they would kick a student out if they weren't taking the testing, but address the student impact as well.
Thank you. I'd be happy to. With regard to the students, one, we don't purge students. Our goal, and part of the FAST was in the conversation, but part of our intervention plan is to continue to work with students and families if they're struggling. So let's say we have a student that is not meeting the academic levels and or the social levels. They're not connected into class and not coming to class. Our job is to find a way to make sure they come back on board, to help that family, to help that student engage each and every day and give them every opportunity possible within the laws, of course, to attend class, to get the support, to have them come to extra supports on campus or online, or whatever best helps that student and that family. Our goal is to make sure every student succeeds. We truly understand that with testing and the requirements of testing and asking parents to bring their students to test so we know where they are so we can adjust instruction each and every day. One of the beautiful parts about our platform is that we can adjust on the fly with our students. Every day we can look at where the students are and add more classes to their schedule or take classes away from their schedule because it's done virtually. They don't have to come to a location, into a building. And our commitment is to make that happen for our students. So, A, they don't feel the pressures of school and having more math. One of the things I disliked being a math teacher was, okay, a student's struggling in math, so let's give them 4 more math classes. And of course, that turns a lot of students off. Like, okay, the thing I hate the most, and you're going to give me 4 or 5 of them. So how do we make sure we get the knowledge to the student, but not make sure they don't feel like they're being impacted tremendously? It's going to be a team effort. It's going to be work from not only the school side, from an administrative standpoint, teachers and parents and students. And that's going to be part of our communication moving forward, that it is going to have to be a team effort to make this happen and to make it happen successfully.
Thank you. Member Hinton, any follow-up questions?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thanks. Member Kern.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a newbie, so you'll have to forgive me for not having some of the history here. What I see before me is a set of metrics, and I knew that there was a performance plan that was presented some time ago that was not approved. Where are you today with your performance that will drive these numbers or get you these numbers?
Again, I think I'll turn the time over to Dr. Denson, and he can talk to you specifically about the plans that were put in place for the 17-18 school year that just concluded. And additionally, they have some additional measures already planned for the next school year to address those issues. So Dr. Denson, if you could, please.
Thank you, Andre Denson, for the record once again. With regard to where we are academically and data-wise, and of course, we're excited and looking forward to the star rating and the index scores that will come out, as we indicated earlier today, in August, hopefully by September. We did our K3 MAP testing at the end of the year, which is in May, and we had shown some growth in those areas as well. I don't have the data right in front of me, but we were excited to see how our students grew in the K3, because that's read by 3 initiatives, so we map test them. With regard to the 3 through 8th grade testing, of course, we're waiting for the SBAC data there. With regard to chronic absenteeism, that's where we made a great deal of gain, where, as Director Moderson pointed out, in the elementary school, we were having around 20% chronic absenteeism. We were able to bring that down to 6%, I think lower by the end of the school year, and we were excited about that as well. So looking at the data points, we're pretty confident in the 34 index score that we talked about earlier. We're pretty confident that students will grow and hopefully grow to that 34 point. Some initiatives that we have moving forward for next school year, we're excited about putting those in place because we know if this is approved the way it's written and we make that 34 growth score, the next year would be even more challenging. And so, but we're excited about what we have in place for next school year to make those things happen.
And can you be more specific in terms of what you have in the plans for next year?
I was hoping you would ask that. Thank you. I can be. And I won't take a lot of time with it, but 2 things that we are focusing on for next school year is our scheduling. Looking at how we schedule students into our classes at the elementary school. We revise the schedules to make sure that when we assign students to what we call response to intervention, or RTI, if you will, we assign them based on 3 levels or categories: below basic students, proficient students, and then we have those advanced students who do exceedingly well that you heard from today. With our scheduling and the way our platform is set up, we have unique opportunity to make sure our students who need the most assistance and most support get it each and every day. So our below basic students right now have an opportunity to come to classes more time to get more support in short spans of time, 30 to 40 minutes every day, focusing them just on, for example, ELA, if that's where they're behind. And that's how we can move them up. But the same opportunity is available for our advanced students, where we have enrichment classes where we can pull those 3rd grade students who are performing at a 5th or 6th grade level and not slow them down because we have a classroom full of students, but we could pull them out also and work on some unique structured instruction just for those advanced students. And so we rewrote our entire schedule and listening to the question earlier by Director Hinton, our board member Hinton, about teacher impact. That's going to be one of the impacts. In other words, looking at a new schedule that we shared with them in May. And as a teacher, that's big, getting a new schedule and how to work through the schedule. But they're excited about the opportunity they could touch students each and every day. That's going to be one of our biggest changes. The other change that we're looking forward to with our teaching staff is the data conversations we're going to have and continue to have with our teachers and our students. The expectation is that parents and students should not be surprised by the data. And it should not be a surprise each and every day. And so how do you make that happen when you have 40, 50 students in your homeroom, if you will, to make sure you have that connection with that family? And we are committed to making sure that parents and students are not surprised by the data. They know it's coming. They know the data that's there. And then how do we move the student forward? So having those data conversations, not only between myself, the assistant principal and the teacher, teachers with one another, and looking at best practices, but also having with the families and the students so they know where they are and what they need to do to move forward. So those are 2 exciting things that we're looking forward to putting in place and implementing next year and moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Please. Thank you, Member Bolton, for the record, and thank you. I have a question, and then I've got some comments to make. I'm looking on page 8 of 10. Near the bottom, there's a B and a C. And it says the parties agree that any dispute related to the administrative proceedings is a litigation, or this agreement shall be filed and litigated in court of competent jurisdiction, so on and so forth. And C, I read, agrees that by executing this agreement, it is waiving any right to judicial review. So my understanding is that there would be no more litigation. This would be the crux of everything, and it would hold no matter what.
That's correct. As part of this agreement, these proceedings, the litigation that's pending would be dismissed. There's not going to be any litigation related to the termination proceedings. the paragraph B that you referenced is, it is in the event down the road there's a question regarding this contract, then the contract could be subject to some kind of a proceeding in a court in Nevada if there was a breach of the contract. But it has nothing to do with it today. It's not something we're anticipating. That's one of those provisions us crazy lawyers put in all agreements so that if there's a problem down the road, there's a way to resolve that. But this agreement will resolve everything that as it exists right now, no litigation related to these proceedings or this agreement at all.
Thank you. That was very important to me because I think litigation just takes away from kids and what we have. And I'd like to make just a few comments because I think what you've done here, and I thank all of you for working. And Ms. Morris, I've been in your position to be on a board, and I realize, we may not. I don't know what your background is, the experience, but I can tell by your attitude and your commitment that you just care about kids and helping this program work. Number one, I think we're setting a great precedence here in the way to work and get along and build a relationship and communicate. In fact, it's a precedence that I would think others in our state and in our nation could use, that we come together and communicate. When I heard that you and Chair met together, I thought, wow, that really means a lot when two people sit down. And their goals are very similar, but perhaps the way they get there may be different. So I appreciate that. The 34 took my breath away, that you would accept that. It did. It took my breath away as well. The comment about teachers, one of the things I've learned from this discussion that we've had for so long is also the importance of the learning coaches. And that has to be communicated. And that is your parents or your guardian, whoever's doing that. The ones that have here and have been here for weeks or months truly know the impact and the importance of this. But you've got, 400 plus elementary school parents or families, students, then we need to make sure that all of those parents and learning coaches realize the importance. And I think a lot of that is attributed to your attendance. If that attendance is good, then you know that they're working on that. One of the things I like about this, it's only 10 pages long, really only 9. So it's fairly simple and concise and can be understood by this board and by others. The bottom line is communication. Dr. Denson noted that. Just a quick question. Dr. Denson, how many teachers do you have? What is your number of teachers?
Currently, Andre Denson for the record again. Currently in the K through 5th grade level, we have approximately 18 teachers.
Okay, thank you.
And that does not include special education teachers.
Okay, but I think, again, Member Moulton for the record, that is important that everybody get the same communication, and that's hard when you're working with that many people and that differences. But one of the big things that I think is important is that children know where they are. I remember walking into a school in Clark County when we brought in the Edison program. And on the back of every one of those students' chair was exactly where they were that week in reading, math, science, whatever it was. And they would proudly show you, this is where I am, or tell you where I'm at. Because when you know where you are and you know where you want to be, it makes it a lot easier. So I just thank all of you for working at our staff. I had hoped that we could resolve this without a lot more litigation or and especially confrontation, and I think that's what we do when we come together. So to all of you for working on that, and just to let you know, I am in support of this resolution. Thank you.
I just have, I think, 3 questions. I echo everyone's sentiments about thanking everyone for their hard work and their efforts, and Ryan attending the board meeting I think is awesome. But I do have a couple of questions. And obviously we all hope that they get to the 34 and we're not facing this, but in the event that they don't reach the 34 and that their renewal application does not include elementary school. I don't know if maybe Ms. Bowers and Carson, if she can answer this or not, but in the event that they do not carry on with the elementary school the next year, will they still be eligible for hold harmless money?
So that's a decision that's made by the Department of Education based on their business processes and whatnot. So I don't think we can speculate on that. I don't believe Jen's up at the meeting.
I mean, I just think one of the things that we have kind of always put out there is that there's millions and millions and millions of taxpayer dollars that are going into schools where 30% of the kids are being successful. And I just think the board really needs to be aware that we're talking about an elementary school that's well over $3 million. And this agreement, if Hold Harmless works the way it has in the past, they're going to get $3 million for a couple years for those kids, and we're agreeing to that. So I just think the board needs to be aware of that fact. That's a lot of taxpayer dollars that the school would continue to get, even if the elementary school closed down.
Mr. Herrick, have you and Ms. Hendricks had a conversation about Hold Harmless dollars? I don't think we had that.
We have,
okay.
In fact, and I think Director Gavin can answer the question whether I don't believe they're eligible for Hold Harmless dollars statutorily, but okay. Director Gavin would know.
There is a provision in state law that says that in the event that there is a deliberate reduction in the enrollment, that Hold Harmless payments would not apply. Again, I'm not the Department of Ed, so I can't make the determination based. They have some pretty clear criteria there, but I'm not. I don't think any of us can speculate on that.
Ms. Hendricks, what's the intention of the school relative to Hold Harmless dollars? Would you be seeking those dollars even if you didn't have the students to justify them?
You know, that is not an issue that we have specifically addressed. My reading of the Hold Harmless is they would take that away if there's intentional issues and things which I don't think are present here. I think that's something that we would have to evaluate and really depend on the Department of Ed to come out and tell us if we're eligible for them or not. If we're not eligible for that money, we're not going to take it. If we're eligible for it, we're going to use it for the students that we have to make sure that they're succeeding. Okay, my other question is, and again, I've only read this one time all the way through carefully, so I definitely could have missed it, or if it's implied somewhere else that I don't get, but that I didn't see in here, but where is it that it is either implied or that it says that they will have the 95% participation rate on the testing?
Footnote 1 on page 3. I'm sure that was super easy to see.
Thank you. And then my last question is, obviously this is, it's a very rigorous plan, and these 8-point jumps are amazing each year. But the one question that I have is that, well, it's two questions, kind of. So when you get to 50 points, you're at the bottom end of earning 3 points. It's 50 to 60, or 3 stars, I'm sorry. So you're at the bottom end of that 3-star rating. It was my understanding from sitting on the ESSA advisory board that those targets were actually going to change. And I have no problem leaving it with 50 points, but it's very likely that in 3 years, 50 points is not going to be 3 stars. It's only going to be 2 stars. So, which again, it's fine. You're still, you're making these big 8-point jumps. But the part that I question, or that I just want to talk about for a minute, is that if they reach the terms and conditions above, that they may request to increase enrollment the following school year up to 10%. So I just want to make sure that's a request and that there's no understanding that we're going to approve that, because I don't think we're necessarily in the habit of improving enrollment increases for even 3-star schools, let alone potentially 2-star schools. So they can request that, but it doesn't necessarily tie the board's hands for increasing that enrollment, right?
All of the terms and conditions and the underlying substance of it, this is a staff recommendation to approve this agreement, and there's nothing in here that would bind the board to do anything. I don't think I can do that. So this is all the school would submit a request, staff would, recommend it, and then the board would vote on that. And Ms. Hendricks can correct me if I misstated that.
That is how we understand it as well. In Nevada Virtual's existing contract, there is built in some mechanisms for growth at a slow rate, and it's something that, we've gone back and forth with the authority previously on for growth. And from the school's perspective, if the school does what we think it will do, or what we think is going to happen, and you see those results, then we want the ability to come back. And we'll make our case to you at that time to get the enrollment increase. We put a specific provision in here of up to 10%, so that we don't have to do a contract amendment each time, but we would definitely come back to the authority with our case as to why we want to increase, if there's specific grade levels we want to increase, and make that case, and it would be ultimately up to you at that time. We would hope we can persuade you to do those increases, but again, you're not going to be bound by that. This is not a guarantee that enrollment will increase. It just gives us the opportunity to make that request based on the performance of the school at that time.
And just a side note here, we're talking about the 2021 school year would be the first year that could take effect. So you've got at least 2 years of stable student population.
And I would just piggyback Patrick Gavin for the record. So Member McKinnon, as yes, you'll recall, there's been a stated intent that the state will revisit through the state board the measures of long-term goals and interim progress under the NSPF based on whatever version of ESSA is extant at the time. But again, I don't think we can predict that. It's entirely possible they could push that out for a couple of years. They could change from the SBAC to a spelling test. I don't know what it's going to be. So, and I think that's why we've tried to bake in this language about negotiating in good faith when those changes happen. And I would say that certainly a change in the measures of long-term goals and interim progress would be something that could cause us to sit down and go, do we want to tweak this in any way? What would the index score have been last year under this new system, that sort of thing, as a way of ensuring that that the school has as much clarity as one can possibly have about the future.
Thank you. Any other questions from any other member?
This is Nora. I guess just to comment along the similar lines that I am relieved that we've come to this agreement. I'm hopeful for the improvements, and I'm also just a little, I guess, torn also that our agreement is that we wanted to get to like 50 points out of 100. That's our goal, to get to mediocre for now. But let's get there, and then let's strive for a 5-star, and we'll celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the record, I want to be clear that, we're setting benchmarks for the next couple of years for the elementary school. And, certainly we want to see growth beyond that as well. And getting to this 50 level in the amount of time we set for ourselves is going to be an amazing feat, and we're going to do that and be on a track for continued improvement. And that's where the school is headed. We're not going to stop at 50, but we have to have a plan to get us there.
Can I just make one more comment, please? I think as, somebody who has been on this board since the very beginning, I think it is a really conflicting position that I find myself in, because we heard a lot. We were recommended in 2013 not to approve the renewal of this charter, and members of this board went against staff recommendations and renewed it. Hearing a lot of these very similar promises that are being made again today. That's not taking away from the work, and I want to honor the work that has gone into it. I appreciate it, but I just feel like it has to go on the record that it is discouraging to be someone who's been sitting on this board this long, hearing the same promises when we've already had a recommendation from staff in 2013 not to renew. And here we are. We're going to get to the bottom of the 3 stars in 3 years. And, we're just, we're so committed. We're so committed. Well, we were super committed in 2013 too. So I do find it to be a somewhat difficult position to be in, and kind of depressing, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I often rely on Member McKinnon and Member Luna for that history, because I haven't sat on the board as long. And some of the things that help me break from history a little bit are language like we find in page 5, where there's a specific agreement that the enrollment limitations and the elimination of grade levels is automatic and non-discretionary. For me, that tells me that the school is no longer kicking the can down the road. It's no longer putting us in the position of having to hold them accountable, but they're self-imposing not only benchmarks but also consequences for not meeting those benchmarks that go into effect without argument, without any kind of qualification. And so for me, that's a big step. And then the other big thing was the risk they're taking on what they've already implemented to date. They were pretty confident about the improvement plan that they presented to this board. And we certainly didn't share that confidence for a variety of reasons. But the fact that they're doubling down on many aspects of that and saying that they're going to have a 13-point jump as a result of what they did last year, and they're betting on themselves in that regard, knowing that the consequence of not meeting that benchmark is that there's not going to be an elementary school and that that's not going to be adjudicated. That's just as a matter of agreement. Those two pieces really help me with kind of the trust piece. That is, we've heard this story before in the past, and, with regard to commitments to improve without any results. I think the word we used last time we were together was the word fidelity. How do we know that the program's going to be implemented with fidelity? Well, with this agreement, we don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about that, because either there's fidelity or there's not, and if it's faithfully executed and it produces results, then there are rewards for results. And if it doesn't produce results, then there are consequences. But with regard to the goal being mediocre, I think, as far as you should probably take back to your board, that shouldn't ever be kind of the goal of a school, is that we're striving. I mean, could you imagine that tagline in your marketing? We're striving to be mediocre. I don't think that would be a good selling point for any school. And so even though these are minimum benchmarks to get us on a path to success and to build trust, I think that real commitment should be, to be excellent, to meet the standards that the board has set here, that is to approve and reward, 4- and 5-star schools. And I think, based on the representations that have been made, that you have some of the elements to achieve that. So if there are no other questions, what I'd like to do is take maybe a 5-minute convenience break, because I was told the last time I chaired a meeting that we didn't take enough breaks. So let's take a 5-minute convenience break, let what we've talked about set in. We'll come back here at 11. Actually, we'll take 10 minutes. We'll take 10 minutes. We'll come back at 11:25. Oh, Danny, I just want to double check. Are you still with us?
Yep, we're here. We hear you loud and clear, and we're taking a break like you guys.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right, well, we'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. We took a brief recess after a question and answer period from the board regarding the the draft settlement agreement proposal that was presented. Having had several questions and had cogent answers to those questions, I'd now be prepared to take a motion to approve this agreement. And if any board member would like to make that motion.
This is Member Hinton. Board, I'd like to propose we take a motion on approving the stipulated agreement as presented.
Member Moulton will second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I don't know if the maker of the motion would be willing to make that motion with the caveat that staff can make technical corrections and adjustments. Typical thing we do in the
yeah, that's true. So maybe just amend the motion to include that language.
Would you like me to say that over again?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is Member Hinton for the record. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the stipulated agreement with the caveat of staff being able to make technical corrections if they are needed.
Yep, thank you. Same second? Yes. Okay. So the motion and the second. Any discussion before we take a vote? All right. Well, I think you all have heard my mind on the agreement as proposed. There are really two options: to either have us make the ultimate decision as to whether the school as a whole or the elementary school would continue, or to try to work out some sort of an agreement that accomplishes some of the important objectives that we all have regarding students and providing high quality seats. I think this agreement helps get us there, and I intend to support it. So with that, I'll go ahead, and if there's no other comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for your good work.
Congratulations. Good luck.
All right, that will close agenda item number 3. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4, which will be our second public comment period. Danny, do we have any public comment in Northern Nevada?
No, there's none.
Okay. Do we have any public comment here in Southern Nevada? Okay, there is none. That will go ahead and close agenda item number 4, the second public comment period. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much for your time.
And I agree. Thank you.